Okay, so hope you can see me and hear me. I'm just out for my walk and it is a bit windy. The sun ain't quite right, but I said I'd do a video about what chasing is, because you always read about this runner-chaser dynamic. I mean, it certainly looks like some people do get sucked into this thing of a so-called twin flame or other self-connection just being a solely romantic thing. And that's a big mistake, even though there's massive amounts of romance involved. But I think a lot of people perceive that as one person trying to be with another, just kind of running away from that. And it's an aspect, but it's not, like for me, that's certainly, that was literally never the case, never tried to make that happen. Some people evidently do. So what happens is it's a two-way dynamic, like because you're one soul in two bodies. It's like an elastic band. So there's only so far a person can kind of, I don't know, it was kind of like an elastic band, but by chasing you're actually energetically pulling that so by chasing you're pushing the other person away, but by running they're actually pulling you towards them, is one way of putting it. But chasing manifests in a lot of other ways. So typically the chaser, there's another way of looking at it, it's the sleeper and the leader. The chaser is the one who's more consciously aware of the connection and what it entails. Now, as the other person runs, this person is pulled through their spiritual awakening, and they learn a lot of different stuff. And there's like all this kind of unspoken stuff, because really that person is you in another body. And I think a lot of the time the chasing is, especially in the initial stage, the chaser might become aware of this whole twin flame thing and start reading about it, and coincidences start happening, they start getting downloads and learning stuff. But when there's a separation, you're in a situation where you're going through some very, very intense, strange experiences that don't make sense, and the only person other than you that can help you make sense of that and tell you whether you're right or you're wrong or you're actually, the only person with the answers is suddenly not available to you. Some people make the mistake, maybe, it took me a while to make that mistake and I kind of did it at the right time. If you suddenly then start talking about this connection and stuff, that really pushes the other person away. Like, that kind of takes a little bit of time to get to. Like, for some people it takes years and years and years. What happens is your ego, as it goes into its death phase, you're trying to make sense of a situation, and you might start changing your life and becoming aware of patterns. But a lot of it, you're kind of doing it to, make things better in a way. You're kind of get through, and it's like this so-called union seems almost like an end goal, or that you'll be there. And all of that, actually trying to make sense of it, is chasing. And talking about the connection is chasing. For me, I done things very slow because I worked out that would be a mistake, and I really was on my spiritual journey, and just at the point where it had really become, I really had let that person go, and was energetically, I was very close to just being completely done with the situation. That person then came back in, and it sort of initiated another cycle of it. So yeah, I think you know, stuff that the chaser will do is kind of write really long letters, express themselves. I think anything you're doing with the thought of that other person in mind is chasing, really. Although it's also leading. I mean, some of the stuff which could be perceived as chasing that I was doing really helped my counterpart make sense of kind of her own life and her own challenges. And what I kind of learnt through being in separation and out of separation was that that other person is mirroring your experiences, is going through a very tough time in a slightly different way. So, you know, there certainly comes a point where you really have to just stop and sort of move on, and I think that has its own time span on it. You know, that's it. It's not really something that you can, because you know how you can't detach from yourself, and that other person is you. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried this video isn't making too much sense, but it's actually trying to work everything out. That's chasing, and talking about it is chasing. Like, a lot of stuff is possibly better unsaid. We ended up having very long chats about what was happening to us both within this connection, and being lucky and getting a lot of answers, because some people don't get that, but it's still actually a bit too much. Like, that other person isn't ready to handle that, and neither are you, really. Yeah, I'm not really sure if I've expressed myself enough in this one on the whole chasing thing, but it's anything, but really any attention on the other person, because you know, I will do a video about what running is, because I've kind of learned a lot about that through discussing how that felt for the other person, which might sort of help you understand it a little bit more. But yeah, even though like, once you've been through this, there is never any going back. Like, you can't like unmeet that person. Although I'm interested to see what I'll be saying this time next year, or what will happen. But yeah, that intensity does drop off. I'll do another video about what one teacher calls a detox. It's like really just getting away from that kind of frantic searching phase that you need to do. Yeah, I've probably rambled a bit there, so I'll leave it at that.